So at this time, please join me in welcoming Governor Ned Lamont.
I love coming here because there's so much positive momentum, like Egg said. And I was just with Mike Passero, freezing our tail off at City Pier. But it was really pretty amazing to be there. We finally got the wind turbines going at Revolution Wind. There were a couple of stops and starts along the way. It's enough power for about 300,000 homes. And, you know, it's worth noting, and Eversource knows this better than anybody. Eversource was right there through thick and thin. Appreciate that. Of course, Ørsted, you know, what wasn't easy. And, but, you know, going back a month or so ago when it was really cold, even colder than in here, you know, the price of electricity was spiking to probably 60 cents a kilowatt hour. And all of a sudden, if we had had that Revolution Wind going last month as opposed to starting up now, it would have mitigated that. You know, a little less than 10 cents a kilowatt hour. You want to know what drives up the price of electricity are these spikes. It's not the normal load. It's those incredible spikes during very, very hot weather and more likely supremely cold weather like we have right now. And so it was just amazing to be there with Mike. Out goes the installation vessel. They're doing Sunrise Wind, all part of a State Pier. Sunrise is going to be there at least for the next year and a half or so, and keep that going. Looking across the Thames, I've seen Electric Boat hiring 8,000 people. Looking at the Gold Star Bridge in the distance, you know, the next stage of that construction going on. Then Mike always has another, you know, housing complex that's ready to go there on Hamilton Street. You know, people want to be here, and they're growing. And this is a state that's growing again for the first time in many years. And then, of course, Mayor Singh says, well, don't forget about Norwich. Look what we're doing in Norwich. And he teases all these really good things, but it says you can't say anything about what we're going to do at Dodd Stadium. Okay, I won't say anything. Or you wouldn't hear about the big announcement we're going to make by the end of the week, but let's just say good things are happening in Norwich. And Rodney, you're an anchor tenant for this region. Love everything you do in Foxwoods. Love the way you've got that going year-round with the water park and making that a place you don't go for a couple of days, but you go for a whole family vacation. And I'll just tell you, I think overall, I think I like where the state of Connecticut is right now, but I got to admit it's getting a little complicated out there. You know, I like the fact that if you go back 10 years ago when people were a little down on the state, as you may remember, and we seem to be lurching from deficit to deficit, and a lot of the cool kids were moving to Boston, and GE is moving, and everybody's a little down. I think a lot of that very positive momentum you see right here, I hope we're beginning to feel that around the rest of the state as well. And there are some good things. I got to tell you that, you know, during campaign times, I always hate it because sometimes people are always knocking the state. You know, for the first time in a long time, we're one of the 10 fastest growing states in the United States of America. And a lot of that growth and momentum is keeping going. We have an unemployment rate that's less than the national average. We had a bigger increase in new building permits and housing starts last year than any other state in the country. And that's not just Mike Passero in New London, but that's all over. That's Hartford, one of the greatest, you know, fast growth. Obviously, the whole of Fairfield County, Naugatuck Valley, a lot of people moving into the state, and the only thing holding them back is housing. We'd be growing a lot faster if there were more places for people to be. And that's part of what we did, working closely with the legislature, saying, look, you tell us where you want that housing to go. You tell us what you want that town to look like in, you know, 5, 10 years, and we'll be there as your partners, sewer and water, schools, whatever it is, to make sure it makes it easier for you going forward. I got to say, we're better positioned. You know, in the old days, you know, we didn't have a rainy day fund. And today we've got, you know, well over almost $5 billion. And I know it's burning a hole in the legislators' pockets, but it's really important because Connecticut has got very high fixed costs, as you can imagine. Pensions was a big piece of that. We're slowly bending the curve there and making real progress on the pension side. And our revenues are pretty volatile. A lot of that is related to capital gains and withholding tax from, Wall Street type bonuses and the things. And we've been running really strong for the last 7 years, and that's allowed us to pay down, by the end of this fiscal year, over $11 billion in pension debt, taking our pension debt from about 35% funded to about 65% funded. We're not out of the woods, but making real progress there as well. But I worry, you pay me to worry. And, I look around the country, I see less in Connecticut, but around the country, job growth is slowing. Last year, there was no job growth at all except for healthcare. And this year, as you look around the country, there's no job growth at all. I think you can see that the stock market is pretty choppy, but it's been flat this year for the first time in a long time. We've had double-digit increases for many years. That's why it's kind of nice to have $5 billion in a rainy day fund, because I want to make sure that what happened to this state in 2017, what happened to this state in 2008 and 9, what happened to this state early part of the 21st century, when we all of a sudden lurched from deficit to deficit and people were raising taxes and cutting municipal aid and cutting educational aid. I hope that's not something we're going to have to do. I think we've been able to mitigate a lot of those shocks, and if it's whatever may happen over the course of this year, I think we'll be better positioned than most other states to take it. I'm looking around my other states right now because we compare notes a lot. A lot of them are slipping into deficits right now. And Connecticut, we're still above water, not by a lot, but we're still in a positive place with the rainy day fund and getting control of our fixed expenses. I think that's good. I think the building blocks of our state economy are still pretty strong. Obviously, in this neck of the woods, and it's advanced manufacturing, anchored by EB, what you see going on with Sikorsky and Pratt and all the hundreds and hundreds of companies in the supply chain there. Really strong long-term contracts. I feel very confident about that. Life sciences and biotech, pharma. Actually, we make pharma here in this state. Although I legalized the other stuff, but really growing. More new startups, more what they call unicorns. We've had some billion-dollar IPOs in the biotech space, starting in the greater New Haven area and beyond, including Pfizer right here. I think that's a big piece of our growth. FinTech is very strong. Financial services. AI is going to transform the insurance industry because the nature of the risk when it comes to property and casualty are changing dramatically, as you know. And I think to stay the insurance capital of the world, AI is going to transform that. We're making sure that we introduce AI in all of our colleges. It's now a minor at many of our colleges. So whether you want to be a lawyer, whether you want to be a doctor, whether you want to be in trades or manufacturing, AI is going to be a piece of that. And we're training people to take care of that right now. The other thing I worry about outside of sort of the herky-jerky policy making coming out of Washington, which is really complicated for a governor, not to mention for a lot of you when it comes to tariffs and a lot of the things coming out. For us, a lot of appropriated funds get yanked and they get put back and yanked. You heard that with SNAP. You heard that with the healthcare subsidies on the exchange. Just scaring the hell out of people. And fortunately, we were able to step in and say, we got your back, we got you covered. I can't do this forever, but it at least mitigates what's happening right now. Probably the biggest thing I worry about broadly is probably healthcare expenses. I know what that's doing to your small business. I know what that's doing to, town budgets. I know what that's doing to the Board of Ed. All these boards of ed are coming to say we're out of money. It has nothing to do with anything except for how much you're paying for the high cost of health care. So I'd love your thoughts on that. I'll tell you what we're thinking about is, many of our hospitals, give you much better value than other places. So I'm trying to steer our state employees. I'm trying to steer our retirees. I'm trying to make this available to small business. Come into this preferred network where I think we'll be able to save you a fair amount of dough and make a difference. In the meantime, we're providing subsidies on a program called ICRA, which President Trump likes, so we know it's here to stay, at least for a while longer. And that's a way that you'll be able to provide insurance on an exchange at a lot less cost for your employees if you have less than 50 people or so. We've extended the R&D tax credit, what we're trying to do in the life sciences beyond, doing everything we can to stay competitive with our neighbors. And I'd like to think, love your point of view in this, but I think it's working. A lot of other states are shrinking, population is losing. Remember Connecticut, we were losing population for years and years. And that's turned around. And our population grew very fast coming out of COVID because we kept more things open than other states, and our parks and our beaches and our schools open first. So a lot of people came to the state at that point. That slowed, but we're still growing in terms of population. So overall, I'd say I'm optimistic but cautious just because there's a lot of noise out there. I think you guys see it when you see gasoline prices, and those gasoline prices and fuel costs are going to be reflected probably in the price of what you pay at the grocery store over the next few months, unless the international situation stabilizes pretty quickly. But I should leave you on a happy note, and the happy note is I wouldn't trade places with other states. I'm proud to be here, and I hope you are as well. I think we're well positioned for the future. I think we got some really good, strong, long-term economic growth, and we got a little money set aside in case there's a real emergency. And I can't be the only cheerleader for the state. I need each and every one of you as well. When people ask you what it's like doing business in the state of Connecticut, how's the state doing? Give us a thumbs up. Give them a little push. We've got a lot of people looking at the state, a lot of people thinking they want to maybe set up a business here, expand their business here. And I think optimism is contagious, and you can be a big help. And nobody's been more optimistic cheerleader for the state of Connecticut than Tony Sheridan. Tony has been an amazing partner for me and partner for businesses across the state, and what you've represented in terms of where the state's going, making people believe. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. You're not going far. We're going to keep you. I'll tell you one other thing, and believe it or not, I'm going to Fort Griswold. And I'm going to Fort Griswold next with a bunch of MPs. Those are masters. They're from Britain. And politicians to celebrate the 250th. Seems like an interesting group of people to celebrate the 250th with, doesn't it? At Fort Griswold. You guys burned us down. Thanks. Not a lot of help there. But this is the 250th, and a lot of people are going to rediscover Connecticut during this summer. Fortunately, Tony, we've been able to raise about $2 million privately, so I'll be looking for really good ideas from you in terms of how we deploy that to make sure we tell the story vigorously about what makes this state special. We're signers of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We had Benedict Arnold. He was good Benedict Arnold when he was in Norwich, then he was bad Benedict Arnold when he was in New London, Groton. But there's a lot of stories here. Before that, Rochambeau and George Washington decided where do they want to win the war. They did that in Wethersfield in 1781, and they decided we're going to win the war in Yorktown. I'll remind my friends from Britain of that when I see them at Fort Griswold. But I just wanted to remind you, this is going to be an amazing summer to be in Connecticut, and thank you for believing in the state.
The governor has time for a couple of questions, if anybody wants to get the ball rolling here. Oh, here we go.
So first, temporary early intervention services haven't received an increase since 2017. And one of the things that I've been working with the interim commissioner on is making sure that the money that you put into the budget this year stays there, and it doesn't come with a tiered rate. So is that something that your administration would commit to, making sure that the rate of 167, which came from the rate study, is what the OEC will commit to? Because that's the base rate.
That's a little specific for me, yeah. But let me say broadly, The not-for-profits are an amazing resource for the state. And like a lot of folks, you were shortchanged during the 2010s when we were going through pretty tough times and did not get the raises in many cases you should have had. We've increased our funding for the not-for-profits every year over the last 7 years. We still have a way to go. I always say it's not always a matter of subsidies, though. We have more not-for-profits per capita than just about any state in the country. So if folks can work together, there's also some ways that perhaps they can share some of the overhead and reduce some costs. But I can go offline with you afterwards as regards to the specific piece you're asking me about.
Yeah, I haven't yet, just because Purpose 3 is not considered part of the nonprofits piece. So thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions?
Hello, Governor. Thank you for your time today. My name is Art Scout. I work at Mystic Aquarium. We're a 53-year-old institution that's woven into the fabric of the state. I'd just love to hear some of your thoughts on tourism and what your vision is as we move forward this summer and into the future, bringing people into the state.
Well, visit Mystic Aquarium, and your kids are going to love it. Your grandkids are going to love it. And I'll tell you a couple things. We had more tourists visit the state of Connecticut than ever before in our history, especially those that are 2 or 3 years after COVID, like I said. We promoted, we were open, and a lot of people came. I think the 250th is going to be an enormous, in addition to the things we do as a state to promote the state, what we're doing. Like I said, we've raised an additional $2 million, maybe from some of you out there, incredible contributions. Give us your very best ideas, how we should deploy that money to tell the story of what makes Connecticut special. And I'll make sure that Mystic Aquarium is on that list. You got anything for the 250th? You have like a really old whale or something? No? Okay.
Another question? Back there.
Hello, my name is Tammy Sanford. I recently opened my Ayurvedic practice in Niantic, Connecticut. I'm wondering, since you mentioned that we have a great health care system and we're doing everything like that, how do you feel about incorporating integrated healthcare or holistic healthcare in your healthcare act?
Look, Stitch in Time saves 9. Prevention is what we're doing. We're putting health clinics into all of our schools. We're trying to bring healthcare to where people are, especially rural healthcare, be able to deliver that. And a lot of that gets to what you were saying in terms of not just prevention, not just primary care, but a more holistic look at what we're trying to do. And that's everything from getting healthier meals into our schools. We're going to have free breakfast for all of our kids across the state of Connecticut. Get that passed. Tell your legislators, start the day right. And we have more of our kids in the school. And that's part of what we're trying to do with a more holistic look at healthcare. Look, our healthcare costs, like I said, are going like this. In part, people are getting older. In part, people are putting on weight, not exercising as much. And the mental health is really severe. I thought it was all maybe related to COVID. And after a couple of years, that was settled down. There's still something going on out there. So thank you for what you're doing to reach out for the whole person. It makes a difference.
We have time for one more question.
Sir, thank you, Governor. My name is Randall Jones. I'm with Part of Love International for a 501c3 nonprofit group helping youth, women, and children. As far as the wind farms and stuff go, for living, for help for the electricity thing, what's the percentage that actually comes and benefits Connecticut? I heard numbers like 3 and 4%, 3.5% of all the electricity produced by the wind farms that's coming here. Is that not true, sir?
The Revolution Wind, first of all, Revolution Wind is going to add maybe 2.5% to our capacity for all of New England. So, because we're part of this ISO New England region, 1/3 of it, or about 100,000 homes, would be specific to Connecticut. Rhode Island's going to share in the rest of that. I might say, when it comes to the price of electricity, when I came into office 7 years ago, they're about to pull the plug on Millstone, the nuclear power plant right down the street. And I don't know where you guys are on that, but I thought that was going to be really dangerous for this community and our state. So other states around the country were unplugging nuclear power and plugging in data centers. We did just the opposite. Slowed down on data centers, which drink so much electricity, and doubled down on Millstone Nuclear Power Plant. We gave them a deal. I mean, I had to give them a deal or else they were going to close it. We said, we'll guarantee you 5 cents a kilowatt hour. And I looked really stupid during COVID because, as you know, natural gas, they were giving it away then. Right now, with the incredible high price of electricity, we probably made about $400 million on that hedge, if you know what I mean. And that's going to bring down the public benefits charge quite a bit starting on May 1st. That's a broader answer than you wanted about where we're going on energy, renewable energy, and making sure we have a grid that's reliable because people are using more electricity than ever before, and we got to keep up. Hey, everybody, thank you very much. Appreciate being invited. Love what you're doing here.
So, folks, unless you have permission to take the rest of the day off, it's time to go back to work. So thank you all for being here and for your support of the Chamber. And Governor, thank you very much for your support and all the hard work you do for Connecticut. Thank you.